Day 2 of the championships is here. I cannot wait. What a brilliant day of racing it is. Some stars find the turf at Randwick, and I can't wait to dissect it with these. So this is Layback with Betfair. I'm Tom Haylock, joined by Mitch Lewis and Adam Blencowe. Adam, we'll start with you, mate. How are you, mate?
I'm going very well. Looking forward to the weekend's racing there at Randwick. Big card and big favourites. A real mug multi sort of day, I think. Plenty of short price favourites, plenty of obvious favourites as well. So it's probably a tricky week for the pundits, so it's good to get the call up for the Betfair show, because it's when you get these short price favourites, Betfair is really the place to be, is it not?
It is. Well, you can back and lay them, and we might chat a bit about that. There's a couple of favourites that I'm keen to take on and might be pressing the pink button a bit on Saturday, which is interesting. Mitch Lewis, how are you, mate?
Tommy, how are you? Adam? Yeah, I'm well, thanks. Yeah, sort of same sentiments here. I thought we were really good last week, so looking forward to this week. I thought racing last week was spectacular as a viewer, so looking forward to this meeting for sure.
Sorry if you can hear my dog in the background. Let's get stuck into the lay bin.
The dogs are barking.
Yeah, well, he's excited too by the racing. I can't wait for that. Randwick on Saturday. We'll touch on the track in a minute, but firstly, the lay bins. Adam, I'm with trepidation. You've got your hand up already. I'm nervous to throw to you here for this week's lay bin.
Yeah, I found out yesterday that the lay bin was a thing. I got to throw something in the bin. The list was long. But I narrowed it down. One of the lads here in the office showed me a snippet of one Mr. T. Haylock.
What have I done?
Taking aim at Ryan Moore, a man who, and I had to leap to his defence. He doesn't need my defending, but I had to leap to his defence. You've taken the cheap shot, and you've taken a cheap shot at one of the greatest jockeys to have ever walked the earth. He's had a Hall of Fame career in Australia from a handful of visits, and Clean Energy doesn't turn up, and Haylock's into him. No, I had to come at you for that one. I had to stand up for my man. He's outperformed the Betfair. I had checked against Betfair, so Betfair would be
this is the kind of intelligence we need on this show.
I think Betfair is the most unbiased estimator of chance. I think everyone on this podcast could agree with that. He's outperformed the market in Australia over the journey. As I said, he's put together a Hall of Fame CV in that time as well. Won a Melbourne Cup, a Cox Plate, and a Golden Slipper. And on Saturday, less than a win was expected by Betfair punters from Ryan Moore. So he's one win away from overachieving yet again. And he did nothing wrong, did he? I was poring over the splits and thinking, geez, the only people who could be angry at Ryan Moore for this are the people who are position over pace. And I'm a pace over position man. So pro Ryan Moore.
There you go. Well, I'll take that feedback on board. Thank you. No, it's a bit of clickbait and radio craft there, Adam, but last time he was in town, he didn't speak to the media, which I couldn't cop, and it still annoys me, because we obviously fund his luxurious lifestyle as punters here, and the least he can do is provide a couple of comments post race and add a bit. And he's obviously here to represent Coolmore, but he's here to represent the punters. And what are your thoughts on that?
No, I'm happy for Ryan to be Ryan. He's a different cat. There's no doubt about that. But I would think it would be disingenuous if he turned up here and started talking like a midwit on LinkedIn. That's not him. We don't need generic quotes from Ryan. I think he said that. Yeah, over the years, actually, he's responsible for a few pretty funny quips. He's okay. I'm pro Ryan all across the board. We don't want everyone to be Frankie Dettori.
No, fair. Or Craig Williams.
Yeah.
Mitch, what are your thoughts on Ryan Moore before you get to your lady?
Yeah, I suppose that the different cat thing is interesting, isn't it? I'd sort of agree with that in the fact, but I would like to see him do a little bit more here in Australia, I think, as well. Just we always talk about, wanting to grow and develop the game. It would really some really good insight, wouldn't it, to actually hear from him sometimes. So that's probably my only touch. But, stick to your true self. You can't say that he doesn't. So, fair in that regards, I suppose.
I think one thing I will say is you're right about that. If you speak to people who are lucky enough to speak to him when I think he's a little bit shy and a little bit, I just don't care. It's probably a combination of the two. But if you're lucky enough if you speak to people who have spoken to him, he does have, if you can get him going, he probably is a very interesting listen. So I would agree that it is a shame that we don't get a bit more of that perhaps publicly, because he, maybe more than a lot of jockeys, he does fundamentally understand pace and the race, and to hear him talk about it might be or would be very interesting. So no, I'll concede you that. It is a shame that we don't. It's a shame we don't hear that. But no, he doesn't need me defending him, does he?
No, very good. Before I jump into you, Mitch, just something that caught my eye. It's more of a what caught my eye over a lay bin here, and I'm usually pretty grumpy, so this is rare air. But the booking of Jason Collette on Fangirl in the Queen Elizabeth, it just caught my eye. It was never running. It was no jockey booked at all. Never running in that race. Drew obviously better in the feature, was always running the Queen of the Turf, and then he threw Jason Collette on at Chris Waller, and he picks up a riding fee, and then an hour later he scratches. That caught my eye. I don't know about that. So anyway, that's a little lay bin. Mitchie?
Yeah, look, I mean, probably not as in-depth and racing related as Adam, because I'm few and far in between in my lay bin, so I just get to come in and plug off things that are really frustrating me in life at the minute. I'll throw one in.
Therapy,
throw one in.
This is what it's about.
Yeah, we'll get one in quickly. 9:30 a.m. text message start time I got here in South Australia from Tom Haylock earlier in the week to quickly find out when I got the email notification through that had been changed. So lucky I was here and on time. So I'll just say that there. But Tom did make a good point. Perhaps I could have read the email a bit more in depth, but that's okay. We'll just say
Tom's in the bin twice.
Yeah, I don't want to pile in on Tom here. Otherwise, there's a big red button on the meeting. I'll end up disappearing. So the other one I've got though, Tom, I don't know if you'll throw in some similar sentiments here. We're obviously bubbling a little bit through with our sort of F1 stuff. So how terrible was McLaren's efforts on the Japan GP? And I'll say that in the term that maybe we're quite biased, being Oscar Piastri fans, that you could have let him through, but not only in the fact of not having the Australian win, but it made for a god-awful boring race, didn't it?
It was boring.
Nothing happened. Yeah. Why not let the faster guy in to go at least make a race of it? So, while we might be a little bit biased for Oscar, I'm going to put it down to it made the race god-awful boring. So if you've got a quick car, why don't you go and use it?
Yeah, or at least challenge what you're doing with Max Verstappen and Pitt different times and change something up. I dare say they would have finished second and third anyway, but yeah, it wasn't a very good Japanese Grand Prix. It's a good track, but just hard to pass.
Yeah, I think there was it was 11 or 14 or something changes, and the top 11 finished all in the same position apart from Hadjar and Hamilton swapped, and the rest of it stayed identical. So there you go.
This sounds like map-obsessed Sydney racing.
That's right.
Map-obsessed Sydney racing. Get rid of the map.
Correct. Anyway, Racing New South Wales stewards did the F1 Japanese Grand Prix map there. Let's get into racing, and what a day of racing it is. We've got the 4 Group 1s. It's a brilliant day. I think I prefer day 1 of the championships better than day 2. Maybe it's the Doncaster feature and factor there. I love that race. But soft 6 at the moment. I think we'll be on a good 4, Adam. What do you make of the track?
Yeah, I think we can go into it. And I think if we get beaten, it'll be our fault. I don't think we can look at the track for too much of an excuse there on Saturday. So I won't be factoring it in much, if at all.
There you go. The track played really well last week, probably inside inferior. Rail goes out. Mitch, you expecting the track to play fair?
I think so. Maybe some bits of showers mixed in with what irrigation they may get. I did have a quick look at the forecast, and I know it's not lots, but it's Sydney. So when they say potentially some showers, that could mean 0.5 of a mil up to 50. So maybe just keeping an eye on that. But I'll probably look to avoid the inside. They certainly did last week. Rail goes out slightly again, so you'd imagine they'll do the same thing. 1.9 was your average winning margin. It was 600 distance from the leader. So similar-ish. I think you'll be able to make ground if good enough, but perhaps not to the inside there.
There's a couple of very slow tempos, including the Doncaster there, which attributed to that. Let's start with the 3-year-old sprint, the Arrowfield 3-year-old sprint, race 5 on the program. It's not a race that I'm keen to dissect, Mitch. I need to do a bit more work on the race, but how have you found it?
Yeah, look, really, I mean, I had a look at it. I continually came back to the short price favourite, Autumn Glow. If you were to ask me of what short favourites, I think there's 3 or 4 below $2 that we're going to go through. Which one I'm more confident on? It's probably her. And it's the field she's coming up against versus her sort of ratings profile. So no one's really got close to what she's been capable of doing in recent times, particularly her first up run. But the fact it was over 1,200 metres is the box ticker for me. I've got a lot of time for private life and public attention, but I think they're better over more ground. So to me, perhaps public attention could sneak a place. He might be a little play depending on the value through, given his race map, he'll be up there up on speed. But Autumn Glow to me is the 1,200 metre horse who sort of rates a lot higher than any of the rest of these, and she's the most suited. So I think she'll be very hard to beat.
It's a great teaser in our layback list coming up with Adam Blencowe on the best 3-year-old rated fillies at the moment, which I can't wait to get his opinion and Racing and Sports opinion and the ratings on the fillies at the moment. Adam, Autumn Glow just looks hard to beat. Are you backing, laying? How are you seeing the race?
Yeah, I think Mitch has summed that up pretty well. Spoiler alert, Autumn Glow will be in the top 5 fillies later on.
Good.
The one thing I will disagree with Mitch on is I don't really have a lot of time for private life and public attention. I don't think they're much good. Certainly once we're putting the bar up at her sort of standard there. I think if there's a thread to pull, I mean, she's quite clearly favourite. I think if you model the race and it spat out that she's not top pick, then the model's broken. Start again. So it's just a quibble about the price. I have no interest in chasing her down there, but I'm not looking to get her beat. For the main reason I'm not looking to get her beat is there's just nothing there that I like. But as I said, the thread to pull, I think, is that she stays at 1,200 metres. I think that is some niggle because I think she is a miler, and she'd probably stay even a little bit further than a mile in time as well. So that was probably the niggle first up, but J-Mac was just way too smart. For a ride with no frills, the ride on Autumn Glow first up was awesome. By the numbers, it was a great ride to get her to produce that sort of figure first up at 1,200. And yeah, I think, look, if she gets beaten here and it's not just a act of God, it'll be that they go too steadily and she sort of gets out zipped potentially and is looking for a stiffer test. But the guy in the saddle seems well aware of that, so that takes a lot of that concern off the table.
I do tend to agree. I don't have a huge opinion of Private Life and public attention either. Private Life obviously won the Caulfield Guineas, but had all possible favours the way the track played that day. So very interesting there with the RFL 3-year-old sprint. Let's move to the next race that we're going to cover. It is the Australian Oaks. What a race this is. And again, another 3-year-old filly and again a short price favourite in Treasure the Moment. Vinery Stud looks a natural lead-up for this race year in, year out. Adam, we can talk about that. But I want to ask you, Mitch, first, speed. Who leads this race? Because Treasure of the Moment has a bit of speed, but there isn't much on paper.
No, and that's probably what's going to be one of the key factors for her in the race, I think, is she might nearly lead, and she won't have to do it very hard. I thought next to her, Sun and Sand at a bit of a price, out of barrier 3, potentially might be the other one. And, that could be annoying if you've got a what's it currently sitting in the market? 80 plus, is it, or 60 plus? 41s. Could it niggle her the whole way? I'm not sure. That could annoy her, but I think he potentially goes forwards with her. I think she's going to get a soft enough run. It's going to be a tempo race, and this is going to be one of those ones. Treasure the Moment. If it is a slow tempo and she's out in front, I don't think they'll catch her. It'd be too hard for a horse of her talent getting given the favours out in front.
Yeah, I'm querying what they do on Like a Lucy. And if I'm J-Mac, I'm almost saying I've got the 2,400 metre run under the belt this preparation. Do I just roll the dice and make Treasure of the Moment catch me if you can and see how you go that way? Or do you just follow Treasure of the Moment into the race? It's going to be interesting, which is more J-Mac's style to get back of the horse and lob into that position. So really interesting tactical race there. Adam, how have you found it?
Yeah, I think, again, it's the favourite is very obvious, and it's just a matter of what price you think is the right price. Tactics will be interesting. I think we can try and pick the leader. I think Mitch is probably right. Probably one of the outsiders rolls the dice to some extent, but I don't think they'll do it with a great deal of pressure. And it's probably one of those races where the map's so muddling, you probably just throw it in the bin and play jockeys. Let the jockeys sort it out. And in those scenarios, more often than not, well, probably in all scenarios, but particularly in these scenarios, best jockeys to the fore, and they just happen to be on the best horses here as well. So you got D-Lane v J-Mac. So watching them play cat and mouse around the Randwick 2,400 metres will be good theatre. It might not necessarily be good betting. I do note, so I don't think a lot of Like a Lucy, if I'm perfectly honest. I think the figures I think her record over there looks great, but the figures she's been running in different paces of races, so I respect that, and she's been winning, and maybe there's just more under the bonnet, and she's the old fashioned, she's just doing what she has to. But she's nowhere near Treasure the Moment on the numbers yet, so I can't sit here and try and tell you that we should be taking the trendy option here and trying to get her rolled. The one thing you did say that the Vinery looks the obvious leader. One thing that jumped off the page to me when I was looking at this race is just how poor the Vinery's record has been in the Oaks in the last decade. They've had 3 winners. The New Zealand Oaks has had 3 winners as well, but the Vinery's done that with 58 runners. The New Zealand Oaks has thrown up 3 winners of this from just 10 runners. and has beaten the market, I think by a considerable amount, whereas the Vinery is undercutting the market by about half. So, the Vinery has been overbet historically or in the last 10 years. So maybe there's a very, very fine thread to pull there. But as I said, I'm a ratings man, right? So I've got to come back to the numbers, and they tell me that I've got sort of 8, 9, 10 pounds up my sleeve with Treasure of the Moment, and a muddling tempo probably, if anything, suits her. She won the Oaks in Victoria off a muddling tempo back in the spring there, and she quickened too well for ordinary fillies, and I think she'll quicken too well for ordinary fillies again on Saturday.
Yeah, and she's got that turn of foot, which she showed over 1,400 metres, so she's got a dynamic sprint. I find it very hard to get her beaten. I'm pretty keen here. Betfair will have top 4 market. We'll also have a top 3, obviously the place market standard. But Verona Rose, and Adam scares me when he mentions jockeys, because it wasn't ridden well this filly last start with Karen McAvoy, just given no hope from where she was. But I've got a huge opinion of this horse. She's got the ability to run really good sectionals. She ran the fastest 400 and 200 metres of that race behind Treasure of the Moment. And I think at the place bet and the top 4, if you're looking for multiples or you're looking to play around, I'd almost rather take $2 plus Verona Rose to finish top 3 or top 4 than back the leader there or the favourite in Treasure of the Moment. Adam, I see you nodding. Are you agreeing or disagreeing, or how are you seeing that?
I was just interested, like you're talking about the splits there. I was nodding along to myself thinking, if you thought those splits were bad, how about the Adrian Knox last week? Polymnia ran, I think only a handful of the TJ Smith horses were faster over the last 400 than her at the end of 2,000 metres. Like, goodness gracious me. And ridden even colder than her was Miss Alexi, who turns up here. Done deal, Jamaica, so that's pretty trendy. I think she, in that sort of market, might be the one that I, would raise my eyebrow, because she had absolutely no chance the way things were last week, but she shaped up pretty well. She sprinted home as quickly as she can. And she's been on the radar for a little while, actually, and she's been showing signs without putting it all together. But this could be should be, a different test, and hopefully, I mean, I know we're talking about it being muddling, but surely it won't, over a mile and a half, it'll turn into a bit more of a test than the Adrian Knox developed into for her anyway. But maybe she's half interesting in those wider markets, Miss Alexi.
Yeah, Bell to Tell also through the same race. Like, just to put that, ran 4th fastest final 400 to 200 of the day, as you said. Like, incredible for a 2,000 metre race there with Bell to Tell. I'm with Treasure at the moment on top. I am keen on Verona Rose as the danger potentially, or the better value and the multiple play there with top 3 and top 4. Hello, Betfair punters. We're excited to introduce a new feature on the Betfair app, Follow Tipsters. This feature will allow you to follow your favourite Betfair experts and receive notifications when their betting strategies go live. By clicking follow and enabling notifications, you'll never miss a tip from pros like Terry Layton, Mitch Lewis, Jackson Oldham and Bella Anderson. All exclusive in the Betfair app, so download and get started. We've talked about a couple of star 3-year-old fillies, Adam, in Autumn Glow already and Treasure of the Moment. It's time for the layback list. You're steering the ship. You're steering the ship for Racing and Sports, and everyone's been talking about the fillies at the moment, the 3-year-old fillies, and how good they are. Finally, we got someone that actually can quantify this and tell us who is the better of the 3. Maybe 4. You've got a somewhat surprise selection in your top 5. Starting with number 5 in the ratings for Racing and Sports. Adam, top 5 3-year-old fillies on layback lists. Where do we start at number 5?
Yeah, well, it's a very gentle surprise, but thankfully it's not exactly straightforward. So Treasure of the Moment, 115 plus in 5th.
Number 5?
Number 5.
What's she done wrong?
She's done nothing wrong. The problem is she hasn't done enough. Well, I don't want to say she hasn't done enough right, but she hasn't beaten. So the best horse on ratings that she's stared down and beaten so far is Another Prophet. And Another Prophet is the best filly she's beaten so far by virtue of having beaten Aliana in 1,000 guineas, when I think we could all agree she was fortuitous.
Yes.
Which is to say Aliana was slaughtered. So Treasure of the Moment hasn't had a lot in her way so far. In fact, the best measure that she's had so far, and the biggest opposition she's had so far, is the clock in the CUNY. She raced the clock, and she did do a very good job racing the clock that day in the CUNY. She's fast, there's no doubt about that. But at this stage, her form has her 5th on the list there. There is a plus there because of how fast she's been, and because we think she's largely been untested, and perhaps that's the case again on Saturday. But number 5.
What amazes
And
me
is
about
there room to improve off Saturday's run?
I don't think she'll have to. D-Lane, I don't know. Is D-Lane, he's going off to Japan soon. He might be keen to show off. He's having a good run at the moment. He might just think, you know what? Let's just cut the ribbons and let her go. Maybe.
But it's what's amazing here, Adam. I was going to say it's a great point, Mitch, because none of these fillies have really met, which is why the debate is so good. Because you mentioned she hasn't beaten much, but she hasn't had the opportunity to beat much by the same token. So, right. She's been well placed and she keeps winning. So that's number 5. Lady 4 might be the biggest surprise in the top 4 here. Lady number 4. I gave it away there. Number 4.
Oh, he's giving it away.
Just a little.
Yeah,
teaser.
3rd and 4th are the 2 that have met. And that's Lady of Camelot in 4th and Lady Shenandoah, the 2 ladies in 3rd. So 4th and 3rd for Lady of Camelot and Lady Shenandoah. Very fast in the surround. She's won a flight as well, Lady Shenandoah, and Lady of Camelot has been right there with her in that surround. And she was also pretty good. She was right up around that number in the spring there. She was badly treated in the lead up to the Everest and then game enough in, it wasn't the highest rating Everest of all time for sure, but bunch finish and a bit of a mess. But she was in that clump with the good older sprinters, the best of what we have around at the moment, or what we had then anyway. So she's been around that number a lot of times, Lady of Camelot. So perhaps she's the controversial one because she's not got the sort of upwardly mobile profile of the others, if you like. The others are all winning now and they're on their way up, whereas she's sort of, we've seen plenty of her. But the form that she's got in the book is good form.
And Lady Shenandoah, number 3.
Yeah, so she's fast and fantastic. But the big knock for me on Lady Shenandoah, so the rating is there, 117, and perhaps she's better than that. She's run fast times. Unlike Treasure of the Moment, she's had chances. She's been in fast races against good horses. She's taken on the older horses in a Coolmore. And, she's got a chance to rev the engine and show us what she's got, and what she's got's fantastic. But the vibometer sinks on her when I hear that she won't be going to a mile again. She's going to be turned into a sprinter and yuck.
Another Everest horse.
Yeah.
Let's get to number 2. There's two fillies left of the big 4 or 5 that everyone's thinking. How have you decided on the top 2?
Autumn Glow is number 2 with
what
a big
number?
plus, 117 plus. So she's actually only ahead of Lady Shenandoah through symboling.
Yes.
So I've been a little bit creative there, but she will get over longer trips, I would imagine. So in my mind anyway, that gives her more substance. If you can't stay a mile, I mean, who are you? That's where I'm at. So yeah, she's a filly of substance, Autumn Glow, and that 117 that she ran first up, having hinted at it back in the spring as well. The further they went, the harder it got. The stronger the tempo, the better she got. And the way she crushed the line there, that's just a good horse. That's one of those, if it sounds like a good horse and it walks like a good horse and it runs time figures like a good horse, that ain't a zebra. That's a good racehorse right there.
Very good. And Aliana, number 1.
Number 1, she's that Derby win was awesome. It's probably, so I think there's only 3. I got back to Kingston Town, 1980. There's 3 that have won the Derby by further than her: Strawberry Road, Bozam, and Dundeel. So she's keeping fine company there. Now the margin had something to do with what was chasing her as well. I think we can all agree there that perhaps it was there's a few Bendigo Cup contenders for the future in the backwash there. But wow, that was a significant performance. And I think she's I'll ask you guys this question: will she win another race?
You don't think she will?
Well, I think it's a reasonable question, but it's probably a little bit provocative. But at the same time, if you look at the history of these sort of fillies, and even with the stable unearthing middle distance 3-year-olds in the autumn, and then they're very careful with them from here on in, and it hasn't exactly worked out. Very Elegant carries a lot of the weight for classic winners that have done really well for the stable in the future. Royal Descent was awesome. She won once. Can she topple Royal Descent and win twice?
You've got the best 3-year-old filly in a great crop. What number did you have her, Adam? What was her figure?
119, and that would have a plus as well because I think, really she was untested there on the weekend. And again, closing splits, some of the sectional modelling there suggests that there's probably even a little bit more to come from Aliana. So she's got the numbers to go and win not just some races, plenty of races. In fact, had she backed up in the Oaks, I think you had to get back to 1993 before we have an Oaks winner run a better number than she did in the Derby. So, that nearly made the lay bin, her not running in the Oaks this weekend. That would have been good. Oh, that's a shame. And then she won't run in the Caulfield Cup either. So, I mean, the vibometer's down there a little bit as well.
What race are you aiming at her, Mitch? Have you had a filly of her class that can win over a Derby trip?
Yeah, see, this is where I know I'm not the trainer, but I would have thought Caulfield Cup Path, a nice one there. But what now? Off that,
Cox Plate.
Win the Cox Plate last year. So do you go and have a target at the Cox Plate? I suppose that'd be the way you're going to go, and you're going to get in well at the weights, aren't you? So I'm assuming that's the way you'd look at it. But I would have thought Caulfield Cup off that run last week would be a really nice one.
All right, let's get to the next race. Enough about the fillies. This is more in Adam's wheelhouse, I reckon. A 3,200 metre field of 20. This is right. You could take things away with the Group 1 Sydney Cup over 3,200 metres. What strikes me here, Adam, is there's not actually a lot of 3,200 metre form in this race, and a couple of the market fancies are light up-and-coming runners that are yet to be tested over trips like this. So how have you found the race?
I think it's a really good Sydney Cup. You're right, there's probably not a lot of 2-mile form, but I think that's true of 2-mile racing in Australia. We just don't have many options for them. So, we basically set horses to target grand final 2-mile races, but we don't just run in them on the way through. So, we're left to guess to some extent there, but I think we can be, most of the horses that are prominent in the market, I think none of them are assured, but I think most of them seem pretty solid at the 2 miles. So it wasn't a race that I looked at and thought, wow, a lot of the chances here are stretching it. I think they'll stay the trip. Certainly Australian tempo style. I think they'll stay the 2 miles okay, and we'll get hopefully a really good spectacle. Because as I said, by the numbers, this is a strong Sydney Cup. There's plenty going on.
It's an exciting Sydney Cup with a couple of winners, a couple of lightly raced horses in the favourite, Alicante, who's done nothing wrong this campaign, 3 from 3, continues to step up in trip and even look more dominant as she's got up in trip. Short price favourite, Birdman's a fascinating runner as well, a bit of upside there. Mitch, who are you leaning to in the Sydney Cup?
Yeah, so with me, she scares the life out of me, but Alicante I feel is very short. I thought last week we were with her, but she got a lot of favours, I thought, which gave her the ability to be so strong. And I'm a little bit worried 3,200 metres now that she won't get those same sorts of favours, which just concerns me a touch. So at that price, I'm probably willing to dodge her. The couple. Are
you laying her or just too scary?
I think I'll lay her because I think she's probably gonna shorten, and I think the opportunity is probably there to lay her. I'll just pull it up. I think I've got her floating around 5-ish from what I had. So I just thought there was more value to play in this market for a couple of others at big prices.
She might just on that. Sorry, just on that, she might even be a proposition to lay in play because you know where she'll be.
Yep.
She might be shorter at the 800 or something and look like the winner, and the 3,200 might get her. So there might be some betting opportunities in play there. Put up some lay prices in play.
Yeah, that is a really good point. I hadn't thought of it that far, but that would probably be perfect, unless some people on me. So what I would like to see is maybe like a River of Stars go with her and not give her the sort of race softly like she got last week. So the two that I thought were value, Duke de Sessa. So this is one of those ones we talked about, unproven 3,200 metres. I think there was a European 3,000 metre run or something there, but I mean, he's ticking along really nicely. And given the fact he can settle forwards and not probably be too far back from Alicante, from barrier 2, and he gets that soft run, I think it gives him that opportunity to be close enough and strong enough late. Like I said, if she's not getting it too soft, I think the last start run just sort of put the writing on the wall that he's there or thereabouts. So I like the setup here for him. And I thought Circle of Fire probably had a bigger throw at the stumps there. It's just because once he gets to 3,200 metres, you start to probably see some of his better form. Winner of this race last year, wasn't it? And 6th in the Melbourne Cup. So we know that sometimes in Australian staying races, 3,200 metres, the horses that are proven at the trip go really well. And that's Circle of Fire, in my opinion. So Duke de Sessa and Circle of Fire are two that I'm going to play at value. And I'm probably going to look to lay Alicante in the run, particularly if I see her, say, a River of Stars go with her. I'd be pretty bullish on that. I'll see how I go. Maybe Warmonger's probably the next one that I'm just having a little look at as well. He's not been going along great, but it'd be similar to his run up there in Queensland last year. He could potentially explode out of this at 3,200 metres. So wary him. If he continues to drift out past 40s, I might have a little look at that.
Yeah, well, so 12 of these come through the chairmans. Alicant's beat 11 rivals in that and then beat 8, I think, in the Manion Cup as well. Was that the right form, Adam, or are you leaning towards Mitch's thinking in the Tancred and the class of those runners?
I like Mitch's thinking there. I think Circle of Fire I think his Tancred run was pretty good in the scenario, which was muddling weight for age race against good horses. And Duke de Sess is obviously in there as well. So that's strong form. It's interesting, actually. Zardozi is the only horse in this field that comes through a race that I know a lot of them are through just the 2 races, but Zardozi is the only one through a race that I would say wasn't fringing on farcically paced throughout. So she's the only one off a strong tempo, but that's back at 10 furlongs. I believe you guys call this the hamburger with the lot. I'm playing that in here.
Good.
I want to back Birdman to turn the tables.
Yes.
Through the chairmans. His closing strength there was terrific, and I like what Mitch is saying about we're here at 2 miles, grand final day. Surely 1, 2, 3 now start to roll the dice a little bit and make it a bit harder for Alicant. Duke de Sessa should be up there, and I don't think they'll be too scared about a strong tempo with him. And a few others. There's a few that are drawn wide there that might just chance it and try and get in there and hopefully turn this into a more genuine test. And I think Birdman's hunting for that. And yeah, as I said, his splits the other day give me something to hang my hat on and say, okay, I think you can turn the tables. I think you can turn the tables in a fair race. And then I've got the great unknown with Alicant as well, going a little bit further and with that pressure. So I've got the chance that he just leaps the bar and also the chance that she lowers hers. So I'm happy to take that, and I'll lay her as well because, like Mitch is saying, there's so many options through that Tancred. There's good runs like Circle of Fire, and, we could go and we could back 5, 6 horses here, or we could back the one that we think through the chairmans ran the splits to turn the tables, and then I can lay her and I can have all the riffraff running for me as well, because I think there's angles all through that riffraff and I want them for me.
Good. I hope I found one of your angles as well. So you're with Birdman to win, backing Birdman and laying Alicant's there. I don't mind that play. Birdman's just got a sense of timing about him. I've been keen on him all preparation, and it's just Waller gets me all the time with his stuff, and then grand final and bang, horses really peak, and he's got a bit of that. He's teased throughout his campaign, and this might be the target all along, so I can definitely see that. One horse I want to get your opinion on, and I'm backing this horse, and I'm pretty bullish, is number 10, Cleveland. Now, it comes through that you're laughing because he's a bit of a painful horse. He's been gelded this campaign. He was first up in that chairman's. Didn't have the fence in run. It was that day where you had to be hot fence. And Alicant's one obviously leading and had the fence in run there. I love that run. He ducked back, worked home well. He's ticked the 3,200 metre box. He's going to be a massive price on Betfair at 50s. I'm just banking the stable up to this trip. We know he runs it. He's a winner over 3,700, I think, and the gelding operation. I think that might just switch him on, get him to settle better. Don't like the barrier, but hopefully they're coming downside. But I do like the jockey booking with the soft hands and the good balance of Jamie Mellum. So one at 50s, I reckon, Adam. Can you give me something?
He ran his best race since he won the Moonee Valley Cup first up. So I think you're right to, that's his best race in a long time. He's obviously had a couple of issues in the meantime. So we haven't, been creative there. We've only seen him, I think, 4 times in between.
Yep.
But yeah, you're right. The best of him is in the game here. And there was some sort of hint of it first up. So, yeah, it'll be a bit of a hero play. Believe land. You've got to believe land.
That's right.
Yeah. No, it's a throw at the stumps, but he's exactly what I was saying before. He's a little bit of the riffraff that I'd rather at those prices that he's running for me than against me.
Yeah, I'm just banking on the gelding, and it's positive that you said that he rated really well. His Moonee Valley Cup was his last better run. So, I'm just banking on his improving and doing things better because he's got the ability. He just hasn't shown it because of potentially not being gelded, and hopefully that switches him on. So there we go. That's our opinion in the Sydney Cup. Let's get to probably the feature. It's a brilliant day of racing, and the Queen Elizabeth Stakes, race 8 on the card, 2,000 metres. One of the great races on the Australian racing calendar. Last year, what a race it was as Pride of Jenny and Declan Bates went and led throughout. the map here is interesting. Can Deny Knowledge try and do a Pride of Jenny here? She's not quite the same horse, but got a similar tactics and similar racing style. I think she'll lead. Mitch, is that how you read the map?
Yeah, I've got her leading, and the other one is this Full Count Felicia as well. So you'll probably see the Yulong Silks out there in front. She's maybe setting up the race, but look a bit UK-ish, won't it, with setting up the horse at the back in the other Silks as well. So they look the two to me. I thought what Deny Knowledge did first up, sticking on strongly too, that they're going to have no fears to go forwards and try and run their own race out in front. So that's the way I've looked at it. They'll be the two, Full Count Felicia, Deny Knowledge out in front, but probably Deny Knowledge.
I'm just thinking Deny Knowledge just does that. I think that's her only chance, is the jockeys don't give her as much credit as they would now at Pride of Jenny. They didn't last year, but she might just slip away from them and do that same tactics, and that's her only chance. Adam, who are you with on top in the Queen Elizabeth? Noting that Via Sistina's drawn barrier 1, and we mentioned the fence might not be the place to be, but all her rivals and her key rivals draw wide, which is very interesting.
Yeah, I think she can get out of there. I'm not too worried about the draw. I know she doesn't want to be completely bailed away, but the guy sitting on top's pretty good at getting out of a jam. So and as Mitch says, there's some friendlies up there, making the race and making the pace for her. So I think they'll get that about right. The Deny Knowledge thing is interesting because Via Sistina, it's another case of, if your model says that Via Sistina is not favourite here, you've probably forgot to carry the 1 somewhere. But the obvious danger is Dubai Honour, and I think one little niggle for Dubai Honour, and again, there's not many niggles about him in Australia. He's been invincible down here, but he's done it off steady tempos with his turn of foot, and I think he's won in France doing it the same way. And when he's gone to a couple of other races, like when he's run in England and they've really run it along on him a little bit, I think those strong speeds can be a little bit of a kryptonite to Dubai Honour. I don't think that's exactly what he wants. He wants to coil the spring and let rip. So if they sort of get drawn into this a little bit, that might make things a little bit tough for Dubai Honour. And so if I'm thinking Via Sistina's obvious favourite, but she's going to be fairly well found. What price are we sort of trading? Are we looking at trading out towards even money? I think you'd start to think about it. But odds on, I'm happy enough to let her go around and do her thing. And I think, again, there's good horses at big prices here, and that's because the front of the house is so strong. But there's horses like Buckaroo, I thought was terrific first up, and we've seen him give Via Sistina a race. Now, that's Via Sistina in B mode, but we've only seen B mode this preparation so far as well. So I don't know. I
was going to ask you about that, Adam. Like, to me, she's priced off a peak figure and a Cox Plate run, not what she's been doing this campaign. And it scares me because Chris Waller, again, grand final, can get to levels like that. But to me, I don't think she's at that level right now.
Yeah, is it that simple? Can Chris Waller? I mean, he's as you say, a great trainer, and he's got a great record of doing this. But it's older mare now. I know she's still fairly new for us, but she's an older mare now. Via Sistina, is it as easy as just here's grand final day, flick the switch and off you go? I'm not sure. It was on Cox Plate day.
Wonder if he gave her a run around Randwick without a jockey.
He dumped games during the week. I'm not sure. That needs to be put in all form guide.
That's right.
So it's a very interesting scenario. That if, as I said, Buckaroo's given the B mode a race, and I thought he was terrific first up. I think he's humming along. Tom Kitten's not hopeless off that farcical Doncaster last week. And I think Russian Park is. I know a lot of the good prices are probably starting to get nibbled away as he gets trendy now, and he hasn't done a lot of winning in recent times. But if you look at his Breeders' Cup run there, there's global form lines through there. He split a pair of Shima Classic winners there who both went out and did good things in the aftermath of that. He went back to Japan. He ran the Aaron McKinnon, where Danon Desal, who won the Shima this year, was in behind him there. Urban Chic, who was the boomed up 3-year-old, was behind him there. Bellagio Opera was behind him, who he's duelled with in the past, and Bellagio Opera won the big Group 1 in Osaka on the weekend. So there's big form lines there, and I keep coming back as well. There was some sort of, I saw on Twitter there was some sort of narrative going that he's a horse with a short, sharp turn of speed, and that's all that Russian Park has got. I find that hard to believe when he's ripped down title holder, who is a high-balling leader, world-class at his best title holder. Russian Park has run him down and run a big world-class time figure to do it. It was only a Group 2 that day, but if he turns up and he's in the sort of form that's ripping down title holder in that sort of time figure, and Deny Knowledge is setting something up for him here, he's He's genuinely scary. There are obvious knocks because you're a horse traveling to the other side of the, well, not the other side of the world, but coming down here. The knocks are obvious, but you've got in the back pocket there the sort of performance and the sort of ability that could give these one hell of a fright. And pretty much if he does rip that sort of form out, it's going to be over to Via Sistina to beat him. What
a race it is. Mitch, you're backing, laying, how are you playing the race?
Yeah, look, I'm probably going to get a little bit cute. I kept coming back to Via Sistina, obviously. One thing I'll add on what Adam was talking about, how she's been so far this prep. I think she's profiling very similar to what she did in the lead up to the Cox Plate last year. So this would be the Cox Plate run where she might completely explode. She doesn't have to explode to that same number to be able to win this race either. So she's only got to improve fourth up again. So hard to look past her. Like I said, if I wanted to get a little bit cute, had some recent success, which I don't think gets touched on much recently. The Quinella markets up there at Betfair.
Yeah,
if you can do some shopping right, they've been working out recently for me. I managed to turn Deacon over a couple of weeks ago into something there. So I thought that could be one bet there. Via Sistina, Dubai Honour, off their ratings, you could throw them in the Quinella because they look the logical too. And then, if again getting cute, I think Deny Knowledge from what we saw last start if she gets to go forwards, isn't too beat up and beat around, I think can hold on to that top 4 position from what I saw last time. So a little throw at Deny Knowledge to finish top 4, and I'm going to have a little go at the Quinella, I think.
Yeah. Interesting that William Haggis mentioned that last race, the 2,400 metres, was probably a better race for Dubai Honour. He's an older horse now, and he's not as sharp at the 2,000 as he once was, potentially. So that's very interesting. Great you mentioned the exotic markets, and obviously we have top 4 markets at Betfair, and just one I really wanted to push and try and make a market at Betfair for top 5, because I think Tom Kitten's almost a lock for top 5, and I'll be having something on him, top 4, and even smaller place. I think he can run a really good race. He comes through that Doncaster, which was an absolutely joke. He settled closer than he ever has. He was over racing and keen, and that's how slowly they went. I thought he was really good. He got beaten 0.9. I think his form's fantastic, and I just think he ticks a lot of boxes, and he'll run a good race. So hopefully he can sneak into top 4 for me there. I've got Via Sistina on top. I've got Russian Park in the top 4 as well. So we're all seeing it pretty similar. One word bet on the Queen Elizabeth for you, Adam?
Russian Park is 2 words.
Oh, good to hear.
Can I get away with that?
Yes, I'll let you have that. Russian Park for Adam, maybe a bit better value there. Let's get to the Queen of the Turf, race 9, the last Group 1 on the program, 1,600 metres. Group 1 race for the Fillies and Mares. Waterhouse, Gay Waterhouse has won this race on 8 occasions. There's been 8 fillies and 22 mares in the last 30 runnings of this race. Grinzinger Bell looks the clear leader here, and is that how you saw it, Mitch?
Yeah, I think so. It was one of the things I was going to throw in. It'll be Grinzinger Bell that goes forwards. Perhaps Sounds of Heaven from the inside can tack on a little bit, but I doubt goes with Grinzinger Bell. So not that we're expecting a leaders track, but if something crazy happens and you're here near the end of the meeting and leaders have been hard to catch, maybe the place play Grinzinger Bell could be a way to look at it, because I think the way I'm looking at the tempo, Grinzinger Bell gets full control of the tempo in this race.
Very good. Adam, who are you with in the Group 1, final Group 1 of the card?
The price here will be very interesting, Fangirl, because I think it will be impacted by results leading up to it. I think we're going to have... as I said, we've got, even before we get into these races that we've been talking about, there's some fairly obvious favourites, here, there, and everywhere. So
imagine if they've all won.
If they've all won,
what price are we getting on the tote or the?
She'll go on the lay sheet if they've all won.
40.
Yeah,
yeah,
it'd be ridiculous.
Yeah, and some of that will obviously bleed into the Betfair market, and probably a little bit of some of the liabilities around the traps might bleed into the Betfair market as well. So it could have a big impact on the price by the time we get here. But I think, first glance, when the fields first come out and you have a little look through this, I thought Fangirl was probably the least obvious of the favourites that we've discussed so far. But when you start getting into it, she's favourite. She is actually favourite, and she deserves to be favourite. She's going well enough, and I'm surprised she hasn't. Because I was sort of another option for the lay bin there. I was sort of kicking up that she didn't run in the Doncaster. I thought that was absolute madness that she didn't run in the Doncaster. And so I was sort of sooking about how, they've taken the low road with Fangirl again. But then when you actually look through it, I'm, misplaced sooking from me, which is rare, I promise you.
She probably doesn't win that race either with the slow tempo. She might have got too far back. You never know, but
No. Well, who knows? But it wouldn't have prevented her running here anyway while I'm on my high horse.
you could do the Steffi.
She hasn't actually. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, a tempo like that, it should have left plenty in the tank. You would imagine. Beautiful race to back up from. But she hasn't actually taken the low road at all, really. So I'm completely wrong about having a go at Fangirl. She hasn't done that. So when she does get here with the numbers that she's got, she's a pretty clear and obvious favourite. But price is going to be interesting. If it's been a bloodbath, and you've got bookies who are having a fill up and having a great day, we might get out past say 240, 250, and then we can start getting really interested. I would think if you're a bookmaker and you're swinging the bag and you've got a few of these ones beaten early in the card, if you're not having a go here, like, what are you doing?
Do they even bookmake anymore, Adam?
No, I know, but let me have my sook. Surely they fill the bag with her, and then we can have a bet.
I totally agree with you. I think the way you went about the race, you think she's kind of vulnerable here, and then you do more work and you come up with her. There's a bit more competition potentially with the likes of a Doncaster winner backing up, and that may be your first thought that you can get her beaten. And then I kept coming back and just think she's actually a great bet at $2. I think anything over $2, I love her. I think she's a better fresh horse, but I don't mind the 3 weeks between runs. She was brilliant last start on that bias track. First, third, and fourth were all fencing run. She was fantastic. We saw Steffi Magnetica come through that race. She was off fence and obviously won the Doncaster. So she's one of the better bets of the program. Fangirl, I think she's the favourite of all the favourites. I think she's the right price and a backable price throughout the day. Mitch, how have you found it?
Yeah, I'm with her too. And again, it's funny that we all look to Potter, but I couldn't do it either. One of the things that I'll add that I thought it's the form that she's had in some of these stronger races, coming through Via Sistina. She's got some A-grade form lines. Wait for age here now. So she's on level pegging with some of these horses at the weights like Lekvate, Amelia's Jewel, Corvalante. With the form lines that she brings in to be on that same pegging of them is unbelievable. So even Steffi Magnetica, really impressive last week, but coming out of a handicap now back to wait for age, I just think it sets up for Fangirl. Grinzinger Bell, I don't think's got enough in the tank to be able to pinch the race from out in front. And I think Fangirl can just sort of tack on, not get too far back and explode over the top late 1,600 metres, fillies and mares, suits just down to the ground, I think.
All with Fangirl there. Atisha is a really interesting horse, 2,000 back to the mile. A pattern that they've done really well. Got beaten a Pimple in this race last year off the same setup, I believe. She was 2,000 back to the mile in the Ingham back in 2022 as well, as she ran a great race and Mr. Pimple to Zui Gotcha in this race last year for similar tempo, similar setup. So, very interesting at tissue, but I'm with Fangirl. Adam, what price are you backing Fangirl at?
I think, so you're saying black odds. I'll ask for a little bit more than that. I'll get me out to sort of 225 and I'll start playing and give me 250, 260 and I'm very happy.
Chips in. So all depends on how they go in the other races throughout the day and all the other. It's a race for the fillies and mares, a day on Saturday with a lot of short price favourites being the girls. So we'll see how we go. Time for the hamburger. Now you've given yours away, Adam, which I can't wait. But shout out to Jackson. Obviously, Vinrock got up last week in the size. He laid Wodenton there. So well done to Jackson Oldham there. His hamburger. He joins the club. Adam, remind us what your hamburger was.
I was backing Birdman and taking on Alal Kants in the Sydney Cup.
Love that. Mitchie?
I'm going to go wide. I'm going to take you down south, Tom, to probably where you are. I'm going to go to the Irwin Stakes there at Morphettville, the Group 3 sprint. I'm going to lay Asphora. She's a world beater and I love her, but she's coming off a long break here. She's well enough in the market. I think she's second in the market right now. I just think she'd be building to more towards your Sankstown, and they've come out and said that they're targeting the UK. So I don't think there's much to gain out of blowing her up first up. And then there's a fit and firing horse, the local Aviatress, as second up here now off a good run first up. She's improved in her previous 2 second up runs. So if she improves again, I think it puts her right in the box seat. Maps really well here. So I'm Aviatress to win, laying Asphora in the Irwin Stakes.
Love that. I've got to come up with my hamburger, and I'll put that in the tips. So follow me. I haven't got one yet. I just found it so hard with the races we've covered with the short price favourites. I don't want to lay any of them, but I do think some of them might
be. You could just get a layup entry, couldn't you, and say what lay Grinzinger at 20s and backing.
It's not the way I operate. Correct. I got criticised for being soft, but we'll see. Best bets, Adam. You got anything around the grounds? Or are we focusing at Randwick? What are your best bets throughout the day?
Yeah, I've got to. I've upgraded Randwick in my pecking order this week. I've done it first,
Good.
so I haven't.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, I haven't done Bendigo yet, but I have had a bit of a look, and I know the numbers, and I've seen Pivot City in the last there at Bendigo, and I think he, without having gone too deep into it, I don't need to go too deep into it. He should take care of those. I think Pivot City. Terrific at the Valley there last time, big splits over a fast tempo. The fresh run said he was back in business. I think he'd had that gelding operation that you're such a fan of. And I think Pivot City will take care of him in the last at Bendigo. So that could be my best.
Pivot City in the last at Bendigo. Mitch?
Outside of Fangirl there at Randwick, that would be my best play there. I'll just touch on it then. I think Aviatrix is on the right path to doing something really good in SA. Yep. I think knocking off the Irwin Stakes is a good one, but perhaps going forwards outside of that. And then if I was to throw one in at Bendigo, I have had a quick look. I thought Zlotys is profiling well enough to look like he might be able to win the gold bracelet. If he can not get too far back, I think Zlotys can get the job done there in race 7.
There you go. My best, Fangirl. I do like a couple of odds in top 4 markets, which is not something we talk about at Betfair very often, but Verona Rose and Cleveland and Tom Kitten. I think I'll be speccing all of those in the top 4 markets. Adam, thanks for joining us, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure.
It's been a pleasure. It was fun coming off the top rope at you early.
We can find all your stuff at Racing and Sports.
You can, yep.
Beautiful.
Yep, Racing and Sports and the Punters Preamble. We'll record that this afternoon. You can hear it all again.
Beautiful. Pleasure, mate. Thank you so much, Mitch. All your tips available in the app for the big day of racing and All Age Stakes Day next week and the like, mate.
Yeah, yep. Thanks, boys. That was really enjoyable. But no, go up to Betfair and follow along there. You'll get notified early when those tips drop, because they'll probably be, I'd say, around early tomorrow before they get out anywhere else. So if you want them early, up there through the app, Expert Tips, follow along.
Love that. Listen to us on Spotify. Watch us on YouTube and Spotify as well. Thanks for joining us. This has been Layback with Betfair. Stay ahead of the game with the most up-to-date betting insights, track conditions and bias, scratchings, late market moves, and more. When it comes to betting, having the most up-to-date information can make all the difference. That's why we've introduced Betfair's Late Mail, the most informed tipping service on the market. Delivered by pros like John Walter, Glenn Ingram, Sean Byrne, and Bella Anderson, Late Mail provides expert insights closer to the jump, helping you adjust your strategy with the latest information and data at your fingertips. Late Mail is exclusive in the Betfair app, so simply open the app, follow Late Mail tipsters, and enable notifications to be ready when our pros send in their late bets. Stay informed, stay ahead, bet smarter with Late Mail.
Imagine what you could be buying instead. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.